6 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. We'll call the meeting of the Board of Commissioners for January the 10th to order. And we're glad to see you all here, and we'll try not to get bogged down too much. So first order of business is announcements.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, would like to inform the board, and I think, John, I think you might have mentioned this last meeting. Friday, January 13th, the District 17 is having a caucus. There is a vacancy for District 17 Director. That is through the NCACC. District 17, representative of our 7-county region, Western region. That will be at 11 o'clock a.m., and it would be good if we could have a member of the board attend. Just wanted to see if anyone was interested. It is via Zoom. I'll be happy to send a link to anybody that would like to attend that. So just get with me, or I'll get with you beforehand, and we can get that worked out. Second thing, we would, you'll see on your agenda, we would like to, for the board to consider, it is, can't believe it's that time of year again, time to kick off another budget. So if the board, Lori and I had discussed some dates this morning. We like to typically do that around the 1st of February. So if the board would please entertain recessing this meeting until February 9th at 1 o'clock p.m. To begin our budget work session. We figured if we started it early in the afternoon, that gives us plenty of time. This could be a lengthy meeting we have a lot of capital projects to discuss and things of that nature. So we figured starting it at 1 p.m. would give plenty of time that afternoon to get that kicked off.
It's February the 9th.
February 9th at 1 o'clock. Again, that's what we're proposing. It's certainly the pleasure of this board.
I don't know what's happening tomorrow, so I sure don't want to be happening in January, so I'm good with it.
You good with me?
Good deal. We'll just recess at the end of.
Yeah. That's the last item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else? Announcements, anybody? All right, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll have a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance, so please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't have any public hearings, so we'll move on to, do y'all have copies of agenda out there? Danny and I just went to a meeting, and there was no microphones, and there was no agendas. We sat there for 40 minutes. He said, well, since we don't know what's going on, why don't we just leave? So if you ever come in here and you can't hear or you feel lost or something like I do most of the time, raise your hand and we'll figure out what we can do to make things a little bit better for you. Public comment period. We have 4 people signed up. First one will be Mr. Bob Cook.
Thank you all for letting me speak tonight. Wanted to let you know we have a serial killer in our midst, one that stalks his prey without concern for age, ethnicity, or even financial status. That killer is fentanyl. If our county had 3 or 4 victims daily from an unknown person shooting our citizens, I just imagine that you as a group would summon our sheriff in here and have him answer hard questions as to what procedures he is using to reduce the number of victims. This is an issue that each one of us has had to deal with in some shape or form in recent years. According to provisional data by the CDC, more than 109,000 people have died of drug overdose in a 12-month period ending in March 22. Annual overdose deaths reached record levels during the pandemic. The latest figure is a 44% jump from 2 years earlier, when there were about 76,000 deaths reported in the 12-month period ending in March of 21. Synthetic opioids, including fentanyl, were involved in more than 2/3 of the overdose deaths in the year ending in March 22. Deaths involving synthetic opioids increased by a whopping 80% over the past 2 years. On Saturday, the 29th of October, I was at the Parker Meadows assisting the Fraternal Order of Police in the yearly event. My partner for the night had been monitoring the EMS radio, and in the roughly 3 hours I was handing candy out to kids, at least 2 of our citizens fell victims to this killer. For clarification, you don't have to die to be a victim of this killer. You can be wounded. Many are wounded. I do not know the outcome of those calls, just that I heard the words possible overdose from the dispatcher. I asked my partner for an estimate of the number of overdoses we have in the county, and he responded about 3 a day. Keep in mind, I heard 2 in a 3-hour period. Prior to this, I was at my first Rotarian Club meeting, and the speaker was Captain Holbrook from the Franklin PD. And he stated the average that they have is 1 a day. So now we're up to 4. That's within their city limits. Our county has roughly 37,000 citizens. You can say that many are the same people repeatedly, and you'd be right. But if you study statistics, you know that they're made up of highs and lows. And eventually, everyone who is an addict will be potentially fall prey to this killer. It may be a family member, may be a friend, but we will all know somebody who ended up as a victim. This fight, in my opinion, is like a 3-legged stool. The first leg of that stool is education. To that end, our schools are participating in the DARE program. My late wife was a DARE instructor, and we both believe it is not a terribly effective program. As a matter of fact, according to the American Addiction Centers, after 10 years of the program's implementation, the APA ran a study of 1,002 individuals in their early 20s who participated in the DARE program in the 6th grade. The study found no measurable outcomes regarding drug abuse, attitudes towards drugs, or self-esteem. Now think about that. This is the program our sheriff's office is all in on after sending several of our deputies out of state to be trained for this program. Programs like Adult Teen Challenge report a 78% success rate. It's a faith-based program that focuses on transformation rather than treatment. There are others such as naturalhigh.org that is an evidence-based program in schools. They report 83% of the educators reported change in their students' perception about drugs in school, drugs and alcohol after going through the Natural High program. I want to remind you that fentanyl is the #1 killer of our youth today. Doing something, though, in reference to the DARE program, is better than doing nothing. We have to do something. The second leg is aggressive enforcement. We must take a stand and put our money and assets into stopping this killer at our county line. We must ensure our law enforcement is well-trained and fully manned to handle this crisis. We must also hold our district attorney's feet to the fire and aggressively prosecute drug dealers that law enforcement catches. I'm not talking about the addicts who may sell very small amounts to supply their own addictions, although they too must be held responsible. When we have those who are not brought back to life by Narcan, someone needs to be held accountable for that death. Our district attorney is very capable of doing that. She helped to write the law that does that very thing. Our law enforcement needs to investigate these deaths as a crime rather than an accidental overdose. These are poisonings, and as such, require a classification of something other than an accidental overdose. To do this, our law enforcement will need manpower, training, and money to accomplish this daunting task. The last leg of this stool is rehabilitation, and this is the focus of why I'm here. This rehabilitation needs to start when addicts are arrested. They need to be treated medically for their addiction. Excuse me. And that is why I had called for an implementation of the medically assisted treatment program at the jail. On September 15th, 2022, Buncombe County was publicly recognized for their innovative approach to cutting repeat offenders and drug overdose deaths using this program. Treatment upon incarceration with this program reduces the potential for an overdose death by approximately 40% once they're released. We have several groups that are trying to stem the tide of addiction in Macon County. I've attended functions like Night of Hope, the Graduation for Adult Teen Challenge, and spoke with the leaders of these and other organizations that are trying to get started, such as Arise and Shine Women's Recovery. If we haven't already, we will soon be receiving our share of an award from the Big Pharma settlement in their part in the opioid crisis. What I would like to see is our county leadership take a stand against this killer and use that money to build a rehabilitation facility for both men and women. We need beds that are used for our citizens. The nearby facilities are difficult at best to get a bed for treatment. If we had one facility dedicated to our county, it would enable the courts to have more flexibility in the sentences and maybe even allow us to justify a drug court. The primarily faith-based programs that I mentioned earlier are great programs, and they're successful in their own right. The private organizations can come and go, and they're not locked into helping our citizens like our own facility would be. They are dependent upon private support and donations. If they don't get support due to their economic conditions, we stand a chance to lose them. We currently have an empty hospital. That would be a great start. I know there are several things that are being discussed for the old hospital usage, and I think that helping save the lives of the citizens of this county should be a top priority. We have many needs of that facility, such as homelessness, and mental health, but drug rehabilitation facilities would also impact those areas. There will be many who will scoff at the idea of county-supported facility. They will push back at their tax dollars being spent on this. What they don't realize is our tax dollars are already being spent on this. While our first responders spend time responding to overdoses, other issues are not being able to be addressed quickly. And that costs money and potentially lives. I understand that Franklin Town Council will decide what to do with the hospital. Maybe it's time this new board spoke with that board and developed some cooperation for the good of all. Now, before I close, I would like to ask everybody in this room that has been touched or impacted in one way or another by drug abuse and drug overdose to raise their hand. In closing, I would ask that you consider not spending that award money on programs that are temporary or not dedicated solely for the citizens of Macon County. These are our citizens, our voters, our kids, and our families. They deserve every opportunity and dime they can get. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks, Bob.
Very good.
Julie Henning. Welcome.
Thank you. Excuse the nerves. My name is Julie Henning, and I'm a retired Macon County teacher. I taught here for 30 years. And I have concerns for our high school, and thank you for listening to them. You know, we've walked this path before. We've been at the edge of this road, and we've looked long and hard at professional advice outlining the need for a new high school, and we've backed away. Now we have an up-to-date evaluation of the degree to which our high school campus cannot be made secure. It cannot be made ADL compliant, and it cannot meet the current needs and standards of our time. Please do not back away. The sirens are blaring. It's an emergency. So this is what I ask. I ask that we join together and say, yes, we will build a new FHS campus, and not spend any more time and energy justifying the reasons not to do it. Please expend that energy and goodwill and forward thinking in finding a way. Macon County knows how to build schools. We've done it before. So find a way and make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Howard Carley.
Thank you. Good evening, all.
Welcome, Howard.
I'm afraid, before I begin, I must tell you that if I just start talking too fast, I'm going to run out of gas. Or I'm going to start hacking, and that's going to be in nobody's interest. So I'm going to do my best to do it in 5 minutes, which I did earlier. But please, give me a little slack if I don't make it,
Thank you, Darren.
and I'll learn better. And it's been at least 10 years since I've done something like this. But my purpose here tonight is just sort of share some general comments and complaints and sharing some challenges and some well wishes. My general observation and complaint begins with regarding the practice and perceived expectations of the, quote, good American citizen. Well, in short, I'm hearing a few lamentations about our governmental system. First and foremost, it is imperative to get understanding and acceptance of a simple fact. The United States of America is not a democracy. It is a republic. In the Bible, Selah is a word you see often. It is a Hebrew word that means think on it. Secondly, a constitutional republic consists of a constitution, which is the law of the land, and elected leaders by the people, i.e., we, the government, we, the people. Thirdly, this is a form of government that is superior to democracy in that it is far more inclusive and not bound to a simple majority rule, and most certainly to the current infatuation with socialism, communism, and wokeness. It is far more flexible and protective of individual rights, as well as the collective rights when properly administered. However, a constitutional republic cannot possibly be administered correctly if it is dependent on the individual input of all of its citizens or lobbyists or every other measure like it. The government can only be successful if elected officials employ a sound moral compass and wisdom, even to the exclusion of personal gain. Sadly, the current scenario does not reflect these attributes, despite many claims and protests to the opposite. The reality is that we have been governed by default. Instead of leaders, we have professional ruling class that expends virtually all of its energy and time keeping their position and accomplishing the objective of avoiding, evading, delegating to unelected surrogates, and pandering for cash to finance their campaigns or personal wealth. Do not misunderstand me. There are certainly many of our representatives that are well-intentioned. And for the purpose of this meeting, I have a presumption that you all fall in that category till I know otherwise or believe otherwise. However, they are hamstrung by the ridiculous perversion of the rules and the intricacies of the process of our political party system. It has degenerated, and it assures that it's no longer a government of the people. It has become a government run amok by focusing on minority groups and particularly the ones that make the most noise or offer the most lucrative options. The most sinister group is, of course, the political ruling class. That's sort of the last of my general vents about that. Last of these comments include an observation and a firm opinion about the recent process of electing a new Speaker of the House. And I point out again, he's the third in line. She is a third in line for the presidency. Many people have been critical of this so-called drama. It's ludicrous that the debate for a House Speaker is the first real debate in 6+ years in that facility. Ludicrous. Of course, I don't have any strong feelings. Don't get me laughing, it won't work. Thank God that the infamous holdouts, and I use that term lightly, persevered, and forced the historic changes to the process. Additionally, a great many people, notably some staunch Republicans, have been critical of those representatives and excoriated them as a great many things, I tend to identify those as rhinos. However, I, for one, am just plain as proud of these renegades as I could possibly be. And I think you should be too. If you really feel that strongly about this country, you should be too. Because they did exactly what that organization is supposed to do. This type of criticism is indicative of what I believe is one of the most disabling causes of success. This problem is simply an inordinate concern and stress over form versus substance in everything in our society. I don't give a damn whether I hold my cup right at a dinner. I care whether or not I'm getting substance in the meal. Finally, I'm sort of through with that one. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I don't need him for this, I need him for that. Anything over that far. Anyway, I'm pretty much through with that part, but I wanted to get that out. And this is kind of the forum that I had figured to start with. I'm going to give it to anybody I can, anybody that'll listen. Now, finally, I want to add, and I want to pass these out. If you want to take one and pass one, please. I've produced one for everybody there behind here. And I have a few left that I'll leave up there. And what that is I've come to share a prayer. And that's what that is. It's a watchman's prayer. I'm sharing a copy of it. I would encourage each of you to say it daily. I would encourage you to make copies and share with all in your circle. This prayer was given to all that attended the Flashpoint rally in Atlanta, Georgia this past July 2nd, of which myself and my wife and a couple of other people were attending. If you're not familiar with that, I did put a phone number on there. You give me a call. I'll be happy to lead you to the path. I feel strongly that that's what we need. We need to get back to what that prayer decrees. I thank you for this opportunity and your attention, and most certainly wish this body and this community, this county, the best in your success in governing this county and my beloved new home, permanent home, in fact, till the Lord takes me. But I am fond of reminding him I can stand the suspense. Thank you and good night.
I just want to take a moment to say thank you and amen to what he just said, and I just want to come and shake your hand.
Oh,
That was awesome.
I'm not opposed to that.
Thank you so much for that.
That goes for the rest of you.
Thank you, Howard.
Say, oh, could I have one more comment?
You got the floor.
I was concerned about, that comment about substance over form. I seemed to read in the paper last week, Mr. Higdon probably has some experience with that type of thing. That's what I read.
Older we get, the tougher we get, Howard. Last on the list, Mary Ann Lyra?
Ingram.
Ingram. Oh, Mary Ann Ingram. Hey, Mary Ann.
Gentlemen, one day I hope we might see some ladies up here, but we got all gentlemen. And I want to congratulate the new people who have come on board and a returner that has been here and a new chairperson. I wanted to say that last week, but there were several people who beat me to the market. My name's Mary Ann Ingram. I have lived here since 1995. And I have come here from when I was a child. And my parents used to come up and go to, on the Blue Ridge Parkway. And I would look at these mountains and I would see myself walking in the woods. I would see myself looking at the sunlight over those mountains, and I said, I will be back here. And I taught school, went to Atlanta, coached and taught in Atlanta, and finally, I got here. And that has been the joy of my time, is being in these mountains. And when all kinds of crapola starts falling around, go sit in the woods. Listen to the leaves fall from the trees, and they crackle. And whenever we have a snowstorm or the frozen ice falling, have you listened to it land on the ground? And you can hear it. It sings to us. And I'm going to go back now to this high school situation. I have read 3 different articles since the Board of Education meeting and you guys. And I was distressed by 2 comments in the paper that was said. And one of them was that there was no need for public comment. And the Board of Education said, yes, there is a need. We want to hear what the public says. And I give thanks for that. And then the next comment that was said in the paper was that the high school had no real emergency. But then I know individuals who are handicapped, and it takes them much longer to get to class. And just imagine, you're a kid, and it's pouring down rain, and you have CP, and you can't get up the stairs very fast. You can't get to the next building very fast. And the rain is pouring down on you. That's an emergency to that kid. And then the next thing is I read, there was a World War II veteran, 90-something years old or 100 years old, and he was being, 98, he was being recognized in the Fine Arts Building. The man had to go to the bathroom, and there was no facility for him to go to the bathroom. Can you imagine? Y'all aren't old enough yet. I'm getting there. Imagine Mr. Shields is getting there too. And it's not fun when you can't get to the bathroom. And it wasn't because there wasn't one there. It was because he couldn't get in there. So it is an emergency. It will be an emergency for you one day. So please, that gentleman said, what was that you said that was Hebrew?
Selah.
It is Selah. Please keep looking at this until we find a solution. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
There may be some emergencies in high school, but nobody on this board created them. So don't throw that in their lap. We're working on them, but,
I'm not blaming anybody.
yeah. Well, I know, I'm not accusing you of that.
Don't misunderstand that.
But we're working to improve. All right, next on the agenda is additions to the agenda. Gentlemen, anybody?
I'd like to share something different.
All right,
All right, so in September, it's just an addition, I'm just adding something to this right now.
is that Lake Green?
New business.
Playground?
That goes under?
Is that what you want to talk about, playground?
Yeah,
New business.
Yeah.
that goes into
Yeah.
business? Okay.
So it'll be 11C.
Commissioner Anton,
Yes.
what would you like to title that? Item of new business?
Park playgrounds.
Okay.
Yeah, just park playgrounds.
Anybody else?
Paul, excuse me, sorry.
Oh.
This is kind of an adjustment maybe rather than addition, but 10B, at on each of your screens, you probably noticed a budget amendment form. So when we approve 10B, if you approve it, you'll also need to approve the accompanying budget amendment that appropriates the funds. So I just wanted to make that.
All right, you got us through there when it's time. Did you say that would be 9C,
10B,
10B?
it's just part of 10B.
Okay.
If you approve the contract, you'll also need to approve that budget amendment.
Okay, okay, good deal. Anybody else, any adjustments? All right, reports and presentations. Mr. Tommy Jenkins. Welcome, Tommy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to you new board members. County manager asked me if I'd come by and speak about the new North Carolina Commerce tier rankings. And I think in December, y'all should have received a memo by email on that. So, but anyway, I just want to go over some of the high points and how that potentially affects Macon County. Since 2007, North Carolina has used a three-level system for designating county development tiers. These designations are mandated by state law, determine a variety of state funding opportunities to assist economic development, as well as indicate a county's economic well-being. Counties are ranked in three tiers. Tier 1 is the most distressed. Tier 2 is less distressed. Tier 3 is most distressed. When you take those three tiers, they're broken into 40 counties for Tier 3, most distressed, 40 counties for the middle, less distressed, and 20 for the least distressed, which typically have been more urban counties with more economic activities. These rankings use 4 economic indicators, which are average unemployment rate, median household income, percentage growth in population, and adjusted property tax per capita. Rankings are scored on the basis of 1 being the most distressed and 100 being the least distressed. So when you hear these numbers, they're sort of backwards from what you would think. You'd think that number 1 would be the best. In this case, 100 is the best. So, Macon, in these 4 areas, Macon ranks 94th in adjusted property base per capita, which was $234,179, which is obviously due to our robust real estate market and second home market. I think Dare County is number 1, and there's something like almost 500,000 per capita. Macon County ranks 78th in population growth with a 3.25 growth increase. And I remember 78th is actually 22nd, I guess, if you flip that around. 54th in median household income with $51,973. And 70th in unemployment rate, which is the average for the year previous, is 3.31%. For 2023, based on these rankings, Macon County has been designated, a tier 2 county with an overall rank of number 79 in economic development distress. Once again, 1 being the most distressed, 100 the least. Macon is the least distressed of all the far west counties, and missed being a tier 3 county by just 2 positions. The last 2 years, we just barely missed that tier 3, which you'll find out in a minute is a good thing. So, historically, Macon County has been ranked a tier 2 county, with the exception of being ranked a tier 3 in 2015. We eventually fought our way back to a tier 3 for 2021 before settling back to a tier 2 in 2022, ranked 80th. And this year, we ranked 79th in 2023. Tier 2 is really where a county of our, in my opinion, of our position belongs. Some examples of programs that you could use through the tier ranking are the Built-in Reuse Grant Program, which I think Mr. Shields and Paul, you're familiar with. We've done in the past. Some local industries that have used those have been Tectone, Franklin Tubular, Brasstown Beef, Hospice House. And we've worked with a lot of the folks, but for various reasons, they just hadn't worked out because they're pretty stringent in their requirements, to say the least. Plus, you'll have to do the matching grant on it also. Other examples are one NC grants, which are cash incentives that are paid forward to companies with clawbacks if they don't meet the requirements of the grant. Tectone, Franklin Tubular have taken have taken advantage of those. Infrastructure grants such as rural water and sewer. The Main Street program, which is would be a Town of Franklin project or Town of Highlands, and various Golden Leaf Foundation grants. The bottom line, being a Tier 2 county, affords various opportunities for state assistance. Recent performance as a Tier 3 and bumping up against the Tier 3 ranking the last 2 years also indicate healthy economic well-being that bodes well for the county moving forward and should put the county in a good position to pursue future projects. That's pretty much it. And Mike has the notes on that if anybody wants. If no one got the memo or I need to resend it, I'll be glad to. If you have any questions, just call me.
Questions, anybody?
Tommy? Is there a difference within the tier 2 status? I understand we're 2 away from being tier 3.
Right.
Is there a difference maybe in being number 41 versus number 79? Is there any weight within the tier itself?
There might be some subjective weight in Raleigh that I'm not aware of, but technically there should not be. If you're tier 2, you should be between 41 and 79. You should be on equal footing.
When it comes to grants and those things like that, if we are 79, that's the last group in tier 2. The 80 is tier 3.
81, I think.
81.
Okay.
And it works for you and against you, especially when it comes to grants. Because human.
Yeah, well, tier 3 is good. That is if you're a company or a retailer or somebody doing retail development along 441 and you see that Macon County is a tier 3 county, that means it's a prosperous county. So it's good to be close to that. We've sort of got the best of both worlds. We're close to tier 3, but we still fall under tier 2 to where we can apply for those extra grants. Any questions? Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tommy.
Mr. Chairman, if we could we back up just 1 second and get a vote to approve the agenda as adjusted, please?
Mike, that's why we pay you the big money. You keep it straight. Got Lori on that end. All right, gentlemen, what's the pleasure of the board on the agenda?
I make a motion we approve the agenda, the new agenda as presented.
So
Any comment? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, here's a biggie. This is a big one. This is what we're all concerned about. Discussion of update on 2023.
Good evening.
Property reappraisal. This is Miss Andy Braswell. She's our tax administrator. For those of you who don't know her, she's got some of her lovely staff over here with her. Tell us all about it.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I would like to update you on the reappraisal. We are not completely done. We have now had all the sales. We are done with 2022.
Can y'all hear her? No. All right, let's
Okay.
have we, you know anything about
Can you
this?
hear me now? Yes. Okay. So sales for 2022 are done. Now we have a lot of work to do until we send out our reevaluation notices in 2020, or in February of this year. They will go out the second week in February, we hope. So last time I gave you the number of what? Well, okay. Our new estimated total at this time, right now, $12,600,000,000. This is not our final number. There's a lot of adjustments that go into this number. How we get to this number? Mass appraisal. Mass appraisal is what we do when we take large numbers of properties and value them based on a lot of different information. Sales information, characteristics of that, of those homes, in statistical forms. So, you're not. As before, market value, North Carolina is a 100% market value state, and that's what we strive to be, to what we get to. 100% market value means what the market is doing, what the sales are doing. The taxable value is the assessed value minus your exemptions, your deferments, and your exclusions. So those will come into play in a little while, because part of your exclusions, the deadline for application is June 1st for your age exemptions, your circuit breaker, and your disabled veteran exceptions. So we can't even get those numbers until all those applications are in. So that will affect this number, but not, we won't even be done until June for that. That's when the deadline is for the number. What affects this number? As before, the sales, the supply, the building cost. And now that we're done with the sales, we have, of course, the exemptions, exclusions, deferments. The deferments, we follow the North Carolina Department of Revenue schedule. It's a new schedule this year. So for forestry, we're normally at $195 an acre. The new schedule is $380 per acre. Agriculture is normally $790 per acre. It is now $1,200 per acre. And this comes directly from the Department of Revenue and their present use board, advisory board. And then we have the appeals. The appeals for this year can go anywhere until December. December 1st is our deadline. So depending on how many appeals we have, we will know after the appeals are done. But we will still bill before the appeals are done. I'm hoping the appeals will be done before that, but they can go all the way to December.
Can you clarify that for me, deferment per acre?
So
Substantial change, I'm just curious.
it's based on the Department of Revenue has a use advisory group, and they come up with these numbers, and they take the state and they cut it up into sections based on the ground, what you grow, depending on if you're on one side or the other, and they have a board that goes in and tells you how much you can charge, and what the normal rents are for different things that you grow, trees, any of the agriculture, because of course each end of the state is different. So it's based on that. And I have a booklet, if you'd like me to email that to you, the use booklet from the state. Well, what sales are not? Of course, the foreclosures, the auctions, the sales between related parties, most estate sales, bank liquidation sales, short sales, exchange of property, life estates, governmental public utility, lending institutions, and relocation sales. Those are going to come into play in when I tell you how many qualified sales. There's many more sales that happen during the year, but you can only qualify them when you take those sales out. So it brings down your number of what you can use to value your property. The sales ratio comparison is extremely important for us. If you look at years 2015 and 2019, those are almost at 100%. And that is what you want for a reevaluation. If you look at 2015, so then 2016, it goes up to 104. That means that we were overvalued the assessed value was 4% over what the selling price was. So then it goes down and then it goes back up. So when you have a reevaluation, it's to equal out your values and bring them back to 100%. And the state recommends anywhere from 90% to 110%, but normally it's between 95 and 105 is where you try to stay. So as you see, from last year, we dropped from 75 or 78.5 to 75 for this year. Well, it doesn't like that. And this is where your sales come in. Qualified sales only. These are not the total. We have a lot of sales that are disqualified based on those reasons I gave you before. Last year, we were at 1857 qualified. This year, it's at 1479. And that's what we use to look at our values or set our values. These are the sales by township from last year to this year. Every township had a decrease except for two, Ellijay and Flats. They actually increased in the number of sales. So there was an overall 20% decrease in the number of qualified sales. But if you look at the values, I mean, they're still holding as far as high and low. They haven't dropped significantly. Here's your taxable totals by township. So on this slide, I'd like to tell you that for the percent increase, you see overall it's a 58%. But that doesn't mean everybody's is going to increase by 58%, which I'm going to show you in a little bit as to how they individually you can look at. But some could be by 5%, some could be by 150%. And the average is the 58 for all of them. Franklin City had the lowest increase, followed by Scaly. Everybody else was over 50% as an average. We did increase by 304 parcels. This house is a normal house, nothing spectacular. The total assessed value in 2022 was 172,430. The new assessed value is going to be 279,160. It is a 61.8% increase. That is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a basement and a garage in the basement. We have tiny home sales that are very prevalent right now in our communities. This was in December of 2021. This tiny home and .48 of a lot sold for $182,500. Our assessment in 2022 was $103,310. The assessment in 2023 is going to be $179,150. So that's an increase of 73%.
What made it increase?
Sales. It sold for 183.
Oh, I know where it's at.
So based on that sale, and if we don't follow the sales, our sales ratio can't hit the between 90 and 105. And if that happens, the state comes in and says, there's something wrong with your reappraisal. It's not good. So we have to base our market, and we have to come up with, so there's a base rate for every building. There's a base rate for storage buildings, garages, tiny homes, and it's based on the market. So that's how we got to this number. So it increased because somebody had the money and wanted that property and paid it, that's what we have to go by. So that's not to say that something else in that neighborhood could have sold for $100,000. Well, you have to look at the sales, and everything in this subdivision sold, but most of them were lots. There were only 2 tiny homes that sold as a package. One was for $179, and this one was for $182.50, $500.
So historically, have we always gone by sales?
Yes.
I feel like looking back through history, I feel like the tax assessed value's always been less than asking price. And I feel like now we're bringing that assessed value up to the asking price.
Sales. It has to be based on sales, and that is a North Carolina general statute. North Carolina general statute says we have to be at 100% market value. And if we're not, then it affects our public utility. The Department of Revenue values our public utility properties. We do not. And if the public utilities see that your sales ratio is at 90%, then during certain years, they can go in and they can lower their assessment based on that. And then your tax dollars. We have about a little over $1 million that we get in tax dollars from public utilities. And that affects that. So in certain cities in North Carolina, if you have a certain amount of people in your city, the Department of Revenue, based on your sales ratio, can require that you do a new sales ratio, that you do a new reevaluation based on your sales ratio. Because you're supposed to be between those 2 thresholds. And if you drop below, it means that you're way under or way over. And it's not equal and fair for all the taxpayers. That is the purpose of a reevaluation, is to equal out everybody's tax burden, so that everybody is paying the same based on their market value. This is an older house that sold first and this is in Franklin, not in Highlands. This is in Franklin somewhere. It sold in February of 2021 for $295,000. And then the sale in July brought it to $416,000. This is an 1,800 square foot house with a basement. It was valued at $131,900. We can't even, the 2023 appraised value is going to be $387,530. That is a 93% increase. So now we're going to look at some December sales. These are looking at to see how things are moving in the market. Because in December, we have to go back, and if those sales are showing that our sales ratio is below a certain threshold, we have to revisit that. So in December, this is a house in Burningtown. This is a 1976 house with a view on 3.9 acres. It sold for $245,000. And it was appraised in '22 for $121,870. We are going to be, the appraisal for 2023 is $243,930. It is a 100% increase. This house has not been redone. It has had no renovation whatsoever. None. It looks like it was built in the 70s if you look at the inside of it. So nothing. So what these people are buying is the land and where they're at. Here's a building in the Franklin city that just sold this year for $585,000. The building and the land only. And there is an older outbuilding in the back. This is like a 1920-some building. It has had not a lot of renovation, if any of you have been in this building. The business did not sell with it. The business is still owned by the same people. It's just the land and the building. So, and this is where I put in, so we are at $615,180 for this building. That was sold in May. we can't hit everything right on. That's why I said you have the 5% over and under that you're allowed through the appraisal process. So we're within our 10% of that, we're 5% over. Otherwise, we would probably be 10% or more under. We cannot put that this building that this building has an effective age of much more than, we can't make it a 90. It hasn't been renovated. So that creates a base higher than, because of the sale, because of what they're willing to pay. Now, we do take into consideration the other sales in the area, in the neighborhood, in the city. So that's how this one came out. We have multiple land parcels resales. There's a 1.84 acre in LJ Township. It sold in February of 19 for $24,000, October of 21 for $52,000, and December of this year, it sold for $60,000. Highlands resale. So we had a house sale in May of 2020 for $485,000. This December, it sold for $1,275,000. We had $833,000 on it. So that's why we look at December sales. We're way off, and there's a reason for that. There was no permit taken out on this house, but there was a huge renovation done on it. So we have to go back and look at our sales in December to make sure that all of our numbers are correct and that we are assessing everything correctly based on our numbers. Here's a Highland City business. It's a 1950s building. It's an empty business site. It sold in December for $525,000. Our assessment in '22 was the $384,640, and now we have $529,660 on it for 2023. It's a 39% increase. That's not, after the other numbers, that's not horrible. And then we have the building right behind it, or right in front of it. It is a 1912 building, 0.07 acres, corner lot, sold in December for $2 million. Our assessment in '22 was $889. It will now be $1,884,140. It's an increase of 111.8%. I could go on, and this would be very long, but I have examples of, this is, report after report after report that we run and that we query and that we show that this is where it is, and these are December sales. These are not last year's sales, these are right now. Right now. So
Some
where
of it's
do,
going to be outliers if we try to go revenue neutral.
so revenue neutral takes your base, it takes your collection rate, and it takes a growth rate. And Lori usually helps me with that based on
We look at the last 4 years, I believe it is, and figure our growth over that 4 years, and you figure your growth into the revow.
But
And
there
your
will be
revenue
some
neutral
outliers. I mean, everything hasn't increased
Oh,
equally.
no, nothing, no. And that's why I'm saying some neighborhoods or some house in a neighborhood that had a 58% increase, you're going to have houses that increase 20%, and then you're going to have houses that increase 100%, 50%, and that equals your average.
Those people that are unhappy with those great shifts, then they go through the revow.
So
Review.
our next,
Will you explain that, or is it necessary to explain it in this presentation?
I'm doing it right now.
All right.
So reappraisal notice, we will send those out in February, hopefully first, second week of February. And when you get this, you're gonna It's going to have information on it, what your new value is. Please check everything. Make sure that you look at everything, your building value, your land value, if you have a deferment, if you have, now age exemptions and things are not on this, are not listed on this, that you don't get to that until you get billing. So if you read the form completely, back included, the back will tell you how to appeal. You will take and tear the top part off that's filled out with your information, and the rest of it you're going to fill in. And if you have questions, please call our office. There's a number listed on there. We can help you fill that out. But you're going to take this notice, you're going to call us, we can talk about, we'll put you in a list. You'll, and it's what's called an informal review. So you get this notice, and then you turn it back in. We're hoping to have that done within 4 to 6 weeks. Because then, so the reappraisals will be sent out for second week of February. In February, we're also going to approve the Board of Equalization and Review members. That has to be done. There's 5 members. February to April, that's your informal review. And then we will send out, once we're done, we will send out a notice to everybody saying, yes, you got a change, no, you did not. There's your next step. Your next step is to appeal for the Board of Equalization and Review. We do not accept phone calls for that. It has to be in writing. You can take your notice. You can, we're going to have it on our website. You can download a form, mail it in to us. You can email it to us. We're hoping to have our online portal up and running by then. Because we have the new software, that is something we've never done before, and we're working out the bugs right now to make sure that that can happen. So then, the board cannot meet until April, the first Monday in April, which is April 3rd. And in February, the Board of Equalization and Review will meet, and we may meet a little bit later this year to see how things come in. I mean, if you have 4,000 informals, it's going to take us a while to get through that. And then we send them all out at once because you have a date. You have 30 days from that date to appeal to the board. So as long as, based on the date on that letter. So we will be waiting until everybody gets appealed informally and then send it out. And then you can send your appeal to the Board of Equalization and Review in. So then it will get scheduled and there will be meetings. The last reevaluation, we didn't have a lot of appeals. I mean, we might have had 35. The one before that, we had 300. And they met from April till July. So these hearings will be, usually are here in this room. You'll be scheduled a time, and then you'll meet, and the board makes a decision of what that's going to be at that time. Then after everybody gets heard, all the board meetings go through, then we will send you a letter stating what your new value is, if there was a change, if there was not. And at that time, you are able to appeal to the Property Tax Commission. So then you will appeal. You need to send a copy to Raleigh, to me, and to our county attorney, and to appeal that to the Property Tax Commission. And then from there, the Property Tax Commission takes over for the most part and schedules your appointments. They normally try to have somebody meet with them and kind of like an arbitration. And then you'll get scheduled with them, and that goes to Raleigh. So, but as I said, you can meet, the board can meet until December 1st is for a reevaluation year. Hopefully we don't have to do that, I'm hoping. But that will affect your base. All of those appeals will affect your base for the budget year. And unfortunately, if you have between the age exemptions, deferments are changing every day. People apply for deferments, people take out of deferments. So that's always fluctuating. Age exemptions fluctuate. Your appeals, I can't, at this time, I can't even tell you what there will be or how much will be taken off. You just go by history and look at what happened the last couple of times and base it on that. So here's the appeal process that I just told you about. There'll be information on our website. Call us, we'll email you, we'll mail you if you want to appeal. If you don't have your form, if you just want general information, please call our office. We will have somebody talk to you and look at your property. We make visits to the property. If you don't feel like we have something correct, that's what you need to do if you want to have us look at your property. We are not, it's not going to be 100% right. We don't go into houses. We can't see what's happened to your house. We don't know if you've improved it, especially if there is not, we've taken out a permit. I mean, we don't know that. So some people we have people telling their neighbors all the time, they've improved it, you don't know it, and we want you to know it. So that's how we learn about things. If we don't have a permit, we can't change something. So when you say outliers, if somebody's only increased 20% and then somebody that increased 100 and some percent, normally those people, we have information for them. We don't have information for those that changed just a little bit. Any questions?
I've got a couple. Historically, have we seen an increase of this size before? I know the 90s seemed to be a little bit slower, and then the early 2000s seemed to be similar to the situation we're in.
So I have been here 17 years, and I was here for the 2005, but I don't think it was quite, Kevin's been here for like 5, 6, 7 revals. I don't think I did not see that at that time, and since then I have not seen one that.
We got those numbers.
I can give you.
I'm just curious. And this Board of Equalization, are those meetings private?
No, they're public.
Public meetings.
We will advertise those meetings in the paper 3 times, beginning in March. But the dates have to be set by the board before I can even announce those, because you have to have a beginning and an ending. And until we have to give those people time, there's a 30-day window in there that they have to be able to appeal and send their application in. So
Got a feeling you're going to be busy.
I'm already busy. I've been busy.
Thank you.
See, the pandemic was a player in this too, right?
So the pandemic is when all this started. July of 2020, I believe, is when all this kind of just flipped out of control. But people did not, to be honest with you, people were very nice during the pandemic. They were not complaining about values. They were not complaining about their taxes. Right now, our tax rate is the highest it has ever been. People paid their taxes during the pandemic. They're still paying them. I'm not sure how long that's going to last, but it's been a process, and we've done a lot to try to make it easier for the taxpayers. We have a Dropbox, we have an online portal that you can pay on, mail it in, drop it off. We take credit cards in our office, so we've tried to make it a better experience. But during the pandemic, we did not close. We were open. We were not having people come back, but our collections office did not close. If we had to meet with people, we would go to outside our building and discuss things with them. There's a public portal in the mapping office where we met with them to look at things online, just to service them. We did not close. But it was then when all the sales started. And all the values went up.
Pandemic's over, but the taxes go on.
Well, as you can see, there are still people moving here, and unfortunately, I've heard comments that it's going to be like 2008 again. Well, unfortunately, most of the people that are buying property here are using cash.
Yeah.
In 2005 or 8, they were financing. There's not a lot of financing right now. Everything is cash. And if you have the cash and you want it bad enough, you'll pay whatever. Most places right now have bids. You know, you try to outbid each other.
Yeah,
And
That was that was very informative.
so,
Thank you. And let's see now, how many employees you've got?
16.
16, here's a couple of them back here.
I have Kevin and Tommy Allen. Kevin's our reevaluation manager. He has, or consultant. He has worked with Macon County for 30 years?
Yeah,
Since
And
he
his
was
dad before
probably,
him.
and his dad before him.
it's a family thing.
Tommy's been with our
Yeah.
office for 22 years. 22 years. I have a lot of older employees that have been there a long time. I also have some new employees after people have retired. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
All right, that's the end of reports and presentations. Old business, commission liaison appointments. You gentlemen will find on each stool you got there. That is the privilege, based on precedence, the privilege of the chair to appoint these gentlemen as liaisons to certain departments. And I'm not a big fan of liaisons. My philosophy is that if there's a particular agency or department out there that has an issue, whether it be a funding request, an emergency, whatever, come before this board. We meet every month. Come to us. We don't need to go to you and ask what's wrong, because somebody will find something wrong. But in a form of just openness, come before us. If you're a citizen, a department, whatever, come to us. But these gentlemen have been, I've assigned each of them to certain liaison positions, but I've told them they're not restricted to that one department. If there's another department they want to visit and find out a little more about, these guys worked hard to get elected and have some privilege in doing that. And thank each of you for being willing to serve, and it's going to be a good year. All righty, any questions on that?
Mr. Eaton, I want to say I appreciate it. I see where I have 9 liaisons, 6 old ones and 3 new ones, and I appreciate it.
You like liaisons, Gary. You dress up, you look good, and
I think that's the way you communicate with the community.
you've been a strong advocate of it, and I respect and admire that. And whereas I'm just completely opposite, but you're a good representative. You may get to make some trips to Raleigh for us this year, Mr. Shield.
Chairman, just a suggestion, why don't you or Mr. Rowland read off the appointments? Is that necessary?
I'll be happy to.
You all right with that?
Yeah, not for me, but I just
Okay.
appreciate the 3
I'll be happy to do that. The Airport Authority, Commissioner Shields. Appalachian Trail, Commissioner Shields. Animal Control Study Committee, Commissioner Higdon. Community Funding Pool, Commissioners Young and Higdon. Cooperative Extension, Commissioner Higdon. Dangerous Dog Board, Commissioner Shields. Department on Aging Advisory Board, Home and Community Care Block Grant, Commissioner Anton. Economic Development Commission, Commissioners Young and Sherrill. EMS 911 Emergency Management, Commissioner Sherrill. The Fire Commission has been tabled at this time. We'll discuss that at our meeting in February. Friends of the Greenway, Commissioner Shields. Health Board, Commissioner Higdon. Inspections Department, Building Commission, Commissioner Sherrill. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, Commissioner Antoine. Law Enforcement, Courthouse Security and Reach, Commissioner Antoine. LBJ Job Corps, Commissioner Shields. Library Board, Commissioners Antoine and Commissioner Higdon. Macon Citizens Abilities, Commissioner Sherrill. Macon Program for Progress, Commissioners Antoine and Commissioner Shields. Planning Board, Commissioner Young. Recreation Committee, Commissioners Sherrill and Commissioner Young. Region A and Rural Transportation Advisory Committee, Commissioner Young. Schools, Commissioners Young and Commissioner Shields. Social Services Board, Commissioner Antoine. Tourism Development Council, Commissioner Shields, that is for the Franklin-Nantahala area. Tourism and Development Commissioner for the Highlands is Commissioner Sherrill. Town of Franklin, Commissioner Antoine. Transit Advisory Board, Commissioner Sherrill. Via, Commissioner Shields. Those are the appointments.
You need a motion to adopt these?
Go ahead, I'll second.
Couldn't hurt. Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion, we adopt liaison committee appointments as presented.
Second.
Further discussion? We did add the town, there's a couple that added there, and there's some that we kind of paid off. The town of Franklin, I think it's imperative that this board, sitting right here in the middle of Franklin, should have a representative to interact between the board. There's so much we need to work together on. And we're going to find out from Mr. Antoine here in a few minutes what some of those could be, but that's a new appointment. And then we revised up the recreation committee, right?
Yes, sir.
Somehow it just fell off the paperwork. You know how it fell away? That went away?
No.
Woke up one morning and wasn't there. So we've got two liaisons for that because recreation will be an important part of what we plan to do. All right, gentlemen, got a motion second. Everybody in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank each of you for willing to serve. A little extra duty there. All right. Item B, consideration of contract for Highlands Middle School renovations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll notice laying in front of you, it's the standard AIA contract that we use for architectural services. This particular contract has to do with the Highlands Middle School renovation project. Just to refresh this board, the school board has identified this as their second priority only to the Franklin High School. So this is a top priority for the Macon County School Board. It has been identified and submitted in an application to the Department of Public Instruction where it was approved. The project, as you will recall, entails a projected budget of $634,000, and the renovations will include a roof replacement, HVAC system replacement, window replacement, and flooring replacement at the Highlands Middle School. I was previously authorized by this board to negotiate this contract. The finance director and myself have done so. We're so proud to have Emily Kite with LS3P here with us tonight, who can answer any particular questions that you might have. Again, I will remind you, we had a conference call with Ms. Kite and some administrative staff of the school board. Myself and our finance director did earlier in the late last week. This design is separate from the Highlands Pre-K renovation project, so we need to be sure these contracts, for your recollection, they are separate contracts. This particular contract, this $634,300 contract for these renovations will be taken from monies from the North Carolina Repair and Renovation Fund. This is not county funding that is going into this repair and renovation project. We've negotiated a fee that is customary with architectural contracts we've negotiated in the past at 7%. And with that being said, Mr. Chairman, all we would need is a motion to approve this contract. It has been approved. It's been reviewed by our attorney as well as our finance office, and again, it is the standard AIA contract.
Make a motion to approve the contract as presented.
And the budget amendment.
What I'm just getting ready to say.
With the
Let's say this,
And the budget amendment for $63,430 for the record.
63,000.
Yes, so when we applied for this grant from the Repair and Renovation Fund, the school board provided numbers. They had $634,300 for renovation, and they kind of slotted 10% of that number for planning, designing fees. However, as Derek spoke, earlier, he and I, talked on the phone with LS3P, negotiated a contract, so we got the fee to $44,401, and there's also $1,500 of reimbursable expenses, so the total contract amount with LS3P is $45,901. And then the remaining 17,529 to make the budget amendment balance is plugged into professional fees. That way, if, things come up along the way that are related to design, we've got some money to move around. And of course, if we don't use that 17,529 extra, we will return it to the repair and renovation fund, and that will be earmarked for, either if the construction comes in a little higher than budgeted or for future projects out of that fund.
Let's see, we had a motion. We get a second?
Second.
All right, discussion.
Chairman, I'd like to make note that I see Ms. Lassiter and Ms. Wilkes, two of our school board members in our meeting. So I just want to say thanks for being here. And have either of you any comments on this project? This is smooth sailing, all right?
It's much needed.
The biggest things the architect said at the last time, I wanted to make sure there wasn't a conflict for this renovation versus the proposed. And he assured us that there was no conflict and it wasn't.
It can be done separately. All right, gentlemen, we have a motion second. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Derek, for a good explanation, and Warren for backing him up there. Jim, you ready?
Yes, sir.
As Mr. Lee comes up, I would like to introduce some of the other members of our broadband committee that are here with us tonight. It looks like Jeff and Warren. Am I missing anybody? Anybody else out there? Tommy. Hey, Tom. Tommy is with us here. This RFP that Jeff will go over the particulars of, it's very similar to what was issued in South Macon. And as you'll recall, we've had great success with that project down in South Macon, being able to put that fiber backbone and bring broadband internet service to many residents and businesses in South Macon County. That we use that boilerplate, and this is, you're going to see that boilerplate now placed into the Nantahala community as we attempt to issue this RFP. I will remind you, this is a request for proposals. We're going to talk, we had discussed among the broadband committee members a number of $400,000 of county money to be associated with a match for this proposal that the county would give to a provider that submitted a proposal. And what that basically is saying is, we're going to provide you with $400,000. What can you do for us, provider? So in a nutshell, that's what this proposal is. It's a net that we're casting out there with $400,000 that was previously, that has been earmarked for the Nantahala Community Center and Library renovation. We had a total of $700,000. As you'll recall, we discussed the renovation cost for that building at the last meeting. They came in at under $300,000, so this $400,000 number is a number that we feel comfortable with. Again, we're not obligated to spend $400,000. We might get 4 proposals back, and we don't like what any of them are going to do for us for $400,000. At that point, we don't have to enter into any contracts, but we're simply casting the net. Aside from putting this fiber blueprint in the Nantahala area, this is going to connect all the county facilities over there. What we have stated has to be met in this proposal is all of our county facilities have to be connected with fiber internet. So that's going to be a win for folks like our EMS, our rec folks over there, and it's going to be, we feel like it's going to be a very positive thing for the Nantahala community, something that those residents have been waiting for a long time. So without anything else, Jeff, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, and congratulations to our new commissioners and new chair.
Get that a little closer, Jeff, or I don't know what's wrong. We need,
Can you hear me now?
there you go.
Okay. All righty, as Derek said, the Broadband Committee has assembled this proposal. We actually went through a request for proposals. We actually went through a process earlier this fall where we did an evaluation of the Nantahala area. And for those of you that may or may not be familiar with the Nantahala Lake area and the Nantahala Township, that area is completely unserved by high-speed broadband at this time. There is some Frontier DSL. The high school has fiber. but none of the businesses nor residents have high-speed internet. And so the problem that we ran into is that it's very difficult to do anything, including the connecting of the county facilities, without infrastructure. And so what this proposal, this request for proposals does is it's seeking proposals from qualified internet providers. We know of at least 3 that would have an interest in doing development in this area for one reason or another. And so we will make this public to all qualified providers in the area. And what we're seeking is a qualified provider to basically come in and develop fiber infrastructure on the major roadways in the Nantahala Lake area. That would be Wire Road and Junaluska Road. And that fiber backbone or fiber infrastructure would then be used to connect county facilities. Further, with this request for proposals, we're asking for connection of any homes and businesses within 500 feet of that fiber infrastructure. And so we, as part of the planning for this, we view this as phase 1 for Nantahala area. And what this does is establishes infrastructure that doesn't exist today in the Nantahala area. Once this infrastructure is in place, we have the county facilities connected. The vision is that we can then use state grant funding to do some additional expansion off that fiber. Once again, that infrastructure gives us the opportunity to expand. Today, we can't do anything until there is some infrastructure in the area. And then a third phase of a project would be to then further expand off of that. But this request for proposals only focuses on the first phase, and that is to bring fiber into the area so that we can get started.
Jim,
Yes, sir.
can you share with the group the 4 facilities that we're connecting with?
Yes, sir.
Requested.
Yes, sir. There are 4 facilities. There's more than 4 county facilities in the area, but the ones that are critical within this request for proposal is the Nantahala Volunteer Fire Department, Nantahala EMS. There is a brand-new library and community center that's under renovation. That would be connected. And then lastly, the rec center, which is up off of Junaluska Road. And these 3 facilities would be a requirement as part of this RFP for a provider to serve. There are some additional facilities, a VFR annex building, and then there are a couple of others that could be served, but these are the ones that we view as crucial.
I'm just observing Mr. Cave there. Anything that's in your arena over there too, anything there that we need to explain further about this phase 1, about the 4 facilities? You're looking a little like, what's going on here?
If I might speak for him, currently our VFR facility and the EMS facility have limited Frontier DSL, which works most of the time, and at very limited speeds. And so their connectivity is very limited. There is landline service, but once again, that's intermittent for folks as well. It works most of the time. The goal with bringing fiber in and connecting these facilities is to provide a high-speed connection, which allows them to actually connect and have better access to the rest of Macon County EMS services and facilities. That fiber can also provide voice services.
I believe this is going to be aerial too, right?
What we are suggesting to providers is that because of the terrain and the difficulty in putting in any infrastructure in the Nantahala Lake area, that using the Duke power pole system and running the fiber aerially would be our recommendation. However, that doesn't preclude a provider from coming back and saying we prefer to bury here. And the $400,000 grant that Derek was referring to, without providing some type of an incentive for a provider to come in here, they have no business case, because the number of residences and homes, residences and businesses, doesn't justify the $1 million or $2 million it would take to come in and build this infrastructure. So our goal with actually providing the grant money would be to offset the cost of some of this infrastructure. We are estimating around 11.5 miles of fiber along these roads. And it's time for evening minutes. Anyway, but the 400,000 would be used as an incentive to offset some of the infrastructure costs. It certainly wouldn't pay for the project. We anticipate, a project of this size would easily run the $2 million mark, and it keeps going up every day. So the provider would have to recoup some of that through subscriptions and that type of thing, and put in some of their own investment.
We're on 11 miles, 11 point some miles.
11.5 miles approximately, yes, sir. And that would be the length basically from the high school down to the southern end of the lake on Wire Road, and then on Junaluska Road from Waya up to the recreation center is the 11.5 miles. Questions?
I'd just like to compliment you, and I do it every time because I'm amazed at how you keep things going.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate.
Appreciate it.
Broadband committee and the role that you've taken in keeping us moving. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any other questions?
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
If we could just, I'd like to get a motion to release that RFP. And I would also like to make it contingent on running it through finance and through our legal one good time, make sure that nothing's glaring wrong there.
Yeah, this is, we're not out any money, we're just on the hook out there with $400,000 on see what bites.
That's right.
And,
Expensive worm.
I'll make the motion that we continue with RFP contingent on.
Finance and legal review.
Second.
got a motion and a second, any discussion?
Again, thank you, Jim, for what you do.
Thank you all.
All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you, gentlemen, thank you, Jeff. New business. Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real quick, the American Rescue Plan appropriated $2 billion to Treasury across fiscal years 22 and 23. This money was to provide payments to eligible revenue-sharing counties and eligible tribal governments, and these funds can be used for any governmental purpose except for a lobbying activity. So because we receive PILT funding from the federal government that entitles us to be a recipient of these funds, I think it's, Lori, $459,000 and something in 22 and $459,000 something in 23.
Yeah, 459, 842, 41 for 2 payments, so it'd be a total of 919, 684, 82.
So with that being said, we, with the board's approval, we can receive these funds from the federal government. They can be used in any, they can be used in our general fund budget in anything, to do anything except for lobbying.
Y'all heard it? We get about $300,000 a year.
Built. Correct.
Payment in lieu of taxes. Y'all know what it is? Anybody got any questions on it before we go further on this? It's taking money out of your left pocket and put it in your right pocket. But y'all have heard it. Motion, or the pleasure of the board?
We need a motion to accept the money?
Yeah.
To apply, yeah.
I'll make a motion, we apply for payments.
And somebody go get it. Got a motion, second?
Second.
Discussion. And all in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Derek.
Yes, sir.
And Lori, naturally. Discussion of Recreation Park fee schedule. Mr. Seth Adams, the Rec Park Director. Thank you, Seth.
Good evening, guys. I've got
Let me tell you what this is about. I'm a radical conservative, and I think that when people drive through Macon County, it seems like there's always a big group of people that's trying to get money out of their pockets. The same with the sales tax. They were saying, oh, if these people driving through Macon County, they're going to have to pay a quarter of a penny or whatever. Well, okay. Occupancy tax. I'm not a fan of occupancy tax. Somebody comes here and wants to spend the night in beautiful Macon County. Hey, let's hit them for 3% occupancy. It's just keep getting a little where you can. And the same with the rec park fees. If someone's promoting an event in Macon County, what can we do as community leaders to work with that, partner with that guy to bring a little economic development? So that's why you're here, Seth. It's not to pick on you or anything.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, basically, this fee schedule, it was created by the Rec Commission in 2019. And then it was brought before this board and was adopted by this board in February of 2019.
Was there actually a recreation board?
Yeah, we've met.
I've been on it 9 years.
Yeah, I mean, we meet the second Tuesday every other month.
You still
and
meeting?
have for, yeah.
You still meeting?
I've been here for 20 years.
Every other month,
And you call that a recreation board?
Recreation Commission.
Yeah, the Recreation Commission.
It fell off the list. That's why we got it back on.
No, we've met forever.
Kill the website.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't read newspapers either.
Paul, I was on that years ago and I had to resign because of a conflict, so it's been.
yeah, no, we've met. I
Who are the
mean,
members? Throw some out.
Jeff Weller, Tim Crabtree.
Jim Tate was at our November meeting,
Pardon?
former liaison.
Yeah, Jim Tate was the former
Yeah, I saw
liaison.
Jim's name back a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, we've met,
David Culpepper.
yeah, David Culpepper, Jay Brooks. It's a 5-member board now, and we were looking to get two more members to make it 7. We don't have an Nantahala representative right now, so that, one of those positions, we would love to have some Nantahala represent. Vince West used to serve on the board, and he wore 2 hats. He was our senior games
Yeah.
person and represented the Nantahala community, but right now, we don't have a Nantahala rep after Vince moved, so
Yeah.
that position is still,
Okay.
It's
Do you
still
have
there.
bylaws and all that? or-
we do have a set of bylaws I brought to the board months ago, but we kind of just looked at them, we didn't make a motion to approve them, which we can do that.
Well, I've not seen them. You remember, Gary?
Is that with the Recreation Committee?
Yes.
The same thing?
Mm-hmm.
No, I've never been on that committee.
We had came up with a set,
We'll work on
just to look at, and it didn't get approved.
I think that was something that was started with the previous attorney, right?
Yes.
The previous attorney, so Chester, and so in the attorney
Yeah.
transition, we haven't, I think it was lost in the transition.
We've got a pretty good set, they just need to be looked at by our county attorney and then approved by you guys.
All right. And you know our legal counsel.
Yes.
Okay, that's the deal, yeah. Okay, good deal.
Okay.
Gotta throw
But
that
yeah,
out.
but we've met, pretty consistently. We didn't meet during COVID, obviously, because everything was shut down, but other than that, I've been here for 23 years and we've met solid since then.
And we need to publish that date where everybody knows.
Okay, yeah,
Your meeting date, so get that in some order there. All right, good deal.
okay.
Go ahead, Seth, tell us what you got.
I was asked to go over the fees, and this is the fee schedule. Like I said, that was approved or recommended by that rec board. We had not looked at prices since I had been here, over 16 years. And once we were doing the rehabilitation of the community center, they said that now's a good time to maybe address some of those things. The only real thing that went up is the for-profit shows that are to make a profit. And I think that's kind of what you were referring to, people doing things to help the community. So if there's something to change, it ain't gonna hurt my feelings, I mean, it's one of those things that, it's not a huge moneymaker anyway, this community building. We make anywhere from $13,000 to $15,000 a year in room rental. So it's not a large sum of money. We just kind of recoup some of our expenses for certain.
And you said this fee structure you handed out tonight was approved by the commissioners in 20?
In the February the 12th, 2019.
So none of these fees have changed?
No.
Okay, I mean, my view is if someone's coming in, like particularly a gun show in Von Haven, and it's $1,000 per day?
Yes.
So if he's coming in on Fridays, setting up on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's for 3 days.
It's usually a $2,500 rental from him, or with a 3-day show. Sunday is not a full day, so.
And a normal weekend, if he's not having a show, that the the community building is open.
Yes, yeah, it's open. We have birthday parties, baby showers, all sorts of basketball games. The gym's always open. It's got people in there playing. But when we have shows, obviously we have to, all that stuff goes away. We don't have a rec center when we have shows.
But your employee base is
Yeah,
have the same.
they still stay there. We have to pay overtime usually because shows work more than the hours that are normal, our normal operating hours for breakdowns and stuff. So there usually is some overtime required by the building attendants for that weekend.
In the gym, your half a day is $200 for nonprofit, $400 for profit. Have you ever had anybody complain about that, or?
Nope.
Just,
I mean, but we don't rent it. I mean, nobody comes in and rents the gym. Now, certain shows, like if we have a gym show that didn't fill up, so they don't need the whole building, that's why that's in there. So they may just use the gym. So the whole building, the rest of the building is still open. So we'll still rent the other rooms and rent just the gym to those folks. Or if somebody has an event and they want the rooms instead of the gym, that's better for us because people come, people that are just playing ball don't look at the schedule. They show up and they just want to go in and shoot some hoops. So they just show up and there's something in the gym, so they turn around and leave. But
Are there any other fees associated with the show? So for instance, like, say the gun show, the toiletry items, soap, trash cans, bags.
No, this covers everything.
We provide that here. And what about like the excessive, not necessarily use, but cleaning the floors, mopping, after a show, imagine you have to.
The only other fee that we have is we charge the $150 to put down the covering, the gym floor covering. That's just to protect the floor. It's in 2x4 carpet squares, and it takes us about 3 hours to in between putting it down and taking it up. If it's just two people, it takes a while because it's just like a puzzle piece. You put it together. So that's the big expense. We clean the bathrooms every day and everything anyway. So there is more, obviously more soap, more toilet paper, more, and our water usage goes up because the shows are a little busier than any other time.
And you can operate that show with the same amount of staff that you would on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis.
Most people that have shows, they bring the people to work it. So we have a building, we have one person in there all the time. So we don't add staff on our end to cover their show. They're required to staff their show. For gun shows and some of the gym shows, they actually pay for somebody to spend the night in the building, to kind of watch over things. So that kind of protects us also. That's not our people. So it doesn't affect us other than the building attendant on the closing night, them not getting out of there by the time that the building closes. There is a little, comp time, but other than that, there's not a big change in what's going on.
For me, I think it's a necessary evil that you have to have a fee thing sometimes. if you don't, you're gonna get an influx of people that's there.
Mhm.
But if they have to pay Franklin High School, there, if you're gonna use that, there is a payment. There's a application you have to fill out. Then there's a pay thing that
Yeah.
goes along with that. And it's really not covering everything. It's just a deterrent to keep every Tom, Dick, and Harry from coming in and being part of it. Now, I think I see, the lady from the Frogs here. We have to do it at Frogs, because if you don't, they will take over if you don't monitor it some way, and a fee is a way of monitoring. Nobody's gonna get rich off of it, but it does make a person think about it the second time. If it's going, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, if you have a meeting or whatever special, you pay about $20 just to secure that room at Brothers and Fries. It's open any other time to anybody that has to come in and do a puzzle or read some of our magazines. But if there's a specific meeting or a group that wants to attend something, we do charge them $20.
I think it's to me, it's a deterrent from anybody coming through and getting a bunch of people going in and play, that they have a little, you have a fee here, you have to do this.
Yeah.
And it makes you think a little.
Well, it lets people that are going to have shows, that are in the show business, rent the show, instead of somebody just coming up with an idea, hey, the building's free, so let me claim this weekend and this weekend and this weekend, and not have a clue what's going on. We would run into that if there's not something tied with those.
It shouldn't be free. I mean,
Well,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
question I have. Ron Haven gun shows,
Mhm.
Saturday and Sunday. We're listing this for profit.
Mhm.
Friday, he's setting up, he's not making a profit.
How we've broken it down is if you are a 501c3, a nonprofit, that's how you get the nonprofit rate. We view it as one show. If we want to view it different, that's.
Well, I mean, I understand the a person using public property to make a profit. I understand that.
Mhm.
But in my mind, the fees should be based on the days that he's actually making a profit, not on the day that he's setting up. I mean, to me, and he should expect, or anybody should expect to pay. But I think the whole thing there, it should be based on the days they're actually, because you said it's not changing your staff.
No.
So,
But it is changing usage by everybody else in the county.
That's right. I was gonna
So
say, it's a
they
slippery
lose that
slope.
entire day
That's right.
to anybody in the county using it, and I think that should have the impact. And the only difference between profit or not profit is not whether it's making, he could lose money for all I know. All I'm saying is that it is a for-profit business versus a non-profit business. So that's the delineation.
but we also have 3 rec parks in this county.
Right.
I mean, if somebody wants to play basketball, I mean, we can move around.
Yeah, not on the inside. I mean, we don't have another indoor gym that they can go to and play at
They
any
can't go
given
to
time.
Highlands and play
Well,
basketball?
they could go to Highlands.
I mean, they
and-
go to Highlands and skate on the skate park and
Yeah.
everything else, so the options are there.
For a fee.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm just saying it's all fee-based.
Right.
Skating and otherwise.
but it's fee-based for people having shows. And we really need to make it worthwhile. And I'm not saying, I have no idea what these shows make, it's none of my business. But at the same time, it is a huge economic impact for restaurants around and everything else. So it's not like that it's a drain on the system.
I understand that.
But
That's
now,
my angle too. No, that's my angle
No, I
too.
understand that,
Yeah.
but I look at it more as the other 46,999 people in the county that should have access to that building that don't during that period. That's just the way I look at it. You all make the decision in the end, but if it's a for-profit business, then to me, I view that very differently than a nonprofit. And if you're not gonna have access to a public building for that period and there's a fee based on it, I mean, if for that, in that regard, I mean, it could take him, he could set up in 5 hours, come in after 5 o'clock and set up late. And that, maybe that's something you can work out, but if you reserve the entire day for that function and it just takes that long to set up, that's should have an impact.
Are you guys suggesting maybe there's a weekend price, like maybe they add another item on here? Is that what you're thinking? I mean, for my playing devil's advocate, if I set my crane up on a job, they're paying me to set the crane up, and they're paying me to use it, and then they're paying me to take the crane. I'm shop to shop. I'm not, playing devil's advocate here, but I feel like if the community building is tied up, it's tied up. I mean, it doesn't matter. He could drag his feet for 3 days and set up and say he's setting up. Not picking on Ron, I'm just picking on any entity. And then if we use Ron as an example, it doesn't matter who comes in there. It's, I think, for the county's best interest. Maybe you find a weekend rate. Is that a compromise?
Well, and really, he almost is and has been, because he's charging $2,500 even though he's encumbering the building for 3 days.
3 days.
So that's where the 500.
You're not working the whole day, and most of the time. Now,
Because you know the $500 for the
Yes.
he's only doing half.
And then you're covering the floors too, but you're adding the protection and
Yeah.
picking it up, but I guess he's paying.
he does. If you look back, most of the things that we get, it's like 2650, and that 650, the 150 is added to that. So that's why it's never an even amount. Occasionally, people will have shows that they don't need to do the floor covering, but for the most part, every time that there's a show, if you set a table up on that gym floor, we make you do the floor covering.
Jeff, do you know what they charge at the Civic Center for the art shows?
It's actually, well, in that instance, they're not actually, they're renting just the big room. They're not renting the entire building.
Yes.
So we actually looked at their fee schedule when we did this, and this is actually slightly less, let's just say per square foot, per whatever you want to call it, than up there. We decided here that for various reasons, especially when it came to kids' birthday parties and things like that, we tried to keep everything not really impacting the community itself that's using a community center like they should want to use it. It's really, the rates were still only about 75% of the gym up there. But the difference is there, they just have the gym and all the other rooms, and the workout room downstairs, weight room, everything is still available. Whereas here, when they do it, it's shut down, especially for a gun show, because then you can't have access to any other place in the building. They actually stop you at the door, you pay your fees there, like nobody else can come and go. So yes, we looked at it, but we're still about 75% of their fee schedule.
And then in Hayesville, Hiawassee, they're about $3,000, isn't it, for?
Yes, yes. We're the cheapest that I'm aware of around still. Yeah,
We're smaller.
yeah. We need a civic center to be able to have have shows. I know that's kind of far-fetched, but we need a large facility that we can have these shows, because the building is not designed as a good place for those.
Functional, obsolete.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these numbers here that you have presented are nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, these are probably less than other areas.
They're less than where you can go in anywhere else. We just didn't want to. Yeah.
But the accommodations are less too. I mean, you got chopped, it's not a good venue for a show.
For a show, yeah, but it meets the purpose for a birthday party and things.
right.
And
For
you
little
can't
things.
go and rent a room for 2 hours anywhere else for $20, to have. And that's the main purpose of that community building, not necessarily to have the show. The shows are a good benefit, and I know that it helps the community, but that is how we view it, is that's the rec center that we have here, and that's the main purpose of it.
My opinion is anytime a promoter comes, we should help them. But now, to change this fee structure, or what's your feelings on it? I mean, do you think it's adequate? Or?
I think it's fine. Nobody has ever said anything. Obviously, I mean, if he is unhappy with the $1,000, we're here to do y'all's will.
But does that rec board have the authority to set?
Board of Commissioners has said.
Yes,
They're
a
We only make recommendations.
yes. It's an advisory board. It's not a
In other words, we set the fees.
No setting, yes. That's why I came to you with their recommendations.
I make a motion to keep the fees as is and continue.
I mean, do we need a motion on this? Do we need action on this?
Well, Gary, we have a-
I feel like you're asking for Jeff to continue on to.
Well, we were
Use this
we came just for discussion. I'm not asking for any motion. If we do nothing, we just continue on with what we've got.
we have a motion on the floor. You're right.
So you need for action.
So. the motion
I can
pending.
withdraw the motion. I can withdraw the motion.
Yes.
Because you said, without that motion, you just carry on as is.
Yeah, and if you guys don't feel like you want to change it, then no motion needs to be.
Well, I'd like to see it less naturally, but that's just the way I am. But that's, I'm not gonna make a motion, but is the pleasure of the board?
Did you withdraw your motion?
Yes, I would.
Commissioner Shields withdrew his motion for the record.
Liaisons, maybe.
Well, and also, the whole thing is to make sure that it's all fair based on the taxpayers. So, I mean, through that process, yes, we can recover some of the expenses of the toiletries and stuff like that through this fee base. And there's no, the real thing here is tying up the gym and the rec park for the whole weekend where no one else could use it. But if the fees are in line with,
Like I said, I've not found any cheaper, and that's, we wanted to be there. I mean, we don't charge folks to come in and play basketball during free time. I mean, we're not set up to be that kind of recreation park.
well, that's good information, I mean.
Quick update on the
Thank you, sir.
Hey, thank you.
grant, the soil and water.
I didn't know if you were pushing them along.
Ma'am? Oprah comes on at 9, I got the soil and water.
Yeah, we've recently done a river cleanup in the community park, the rec park downtown, Parker Meadows, and a section down on the Greenway. This is not a recreation project, it's the soil and water, and I don't really want to,
They got a STRAP grant.
yes.
And don't ask me what that stands for, but that's the acronym.
Stream Flow Rehabilitation Assistance
Yeah,
Program.
you got- yep.
So,
And there's
and
still a balance in that.
yes, there's
Yeah,
a
we've
lot of
spent
balance left.
we've got a lot of money. Several months back, the budget amendment was approved and we received that grant. And right now, it's slow moving.
Yeah, but
We do have an engineer engaged that has done some,
we had a pretty significant rain after they had finished the work.
What's
And
more down there?
no, actually, everything's, there's nothing to catch on now. So that they're still clean. And these guys are at a meeting in Cherokee now, have been for the last 3 days, but they come back tomorrow, and the engineer's actually coming to look at the work that has been done. And then they'll move on to the next phase, which is probably individuals. You know, the rec parks, they're basing everything, how they're doing it, it's basing everything on need base and how much everything's in there and how many people it affects. Well, obviously, the rec parks affect more than most because we're public, so.
All right,
sorry,
Jim.
I was gonna say, sorry, I misspoke. We don't have an engineer engaged on this project.
No,
But there
that's
is
something else.
a project ongoing. We received, $250,000 several months ago for the Greenway. And we do have an engineer engaged on that, just to kind of bring you up to date. He's went out there and did a preliminary, can't remember the terminology for it, but anyway, that one is moving along, because the goal is to do some stream bank restoration.
And then some paving on the
some
Greenway
paving
also.
Within the Greenway, so
On some
that one
sections.
is moving. Of course, right now it's winter time and the plants are closed, so hopefully when spring comes around, Seth will be working on getting bids and, getting someone lined up to pave those sections.
And so that part of the Greenway is, you help me on that. That'll be on the agenda.
Yes,
Important about this.
that's what the engineer is looking at right now. When he comes back with a plan, we're probably gonna have to actually move the greenway to the left some, away from the river, to be able to slope it. I think that's probably what he's gonna come back
What
with.
about the Rotary Park there? Is that
It,
damaged?
it will, a little bit of that loop, but it won't affect the loop itself. You may lose 10 feet, we may just have to redirect how do you get up on the trail, but that is the section that, well, they're looking at two sections, and they're within like 150 yards of each other, but that's gonna be a necessity, or the whole greenway is gonna fall into into Little Tennessee right there.
Thank you, Seth.
All right.
Let John and I know when we're eating
Yeah.
crab trees down there, we'll go get some coffee.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Breakfast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen. Item number 12, consent agenda. Any items on?
Mr. Chairman, 11C.
Oh, wait a minute, 11C, park up train. Oh,
All right, I won't take up too much of the time, but back in September, there was a lady who sent out an email. I believe she sent out to the then board, but also she sent some of the candidates the same email. And it's concerning a park issue. So the playgrounds, none of the playgrounds here in Macon County actually have like any kind of handicap accessible equipment for kids. And I believe Hazel had made a presentation here as well a couple months ago. She spoke in a public hearing about this. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I just feel like at this point, there's a lot I feel like we can do. It came to my attention, I spent some time with talking to Seth a little bit today, but it also came to my attention a little bit that there are some things in the works. But my suggestion in this is this, instead of just going forth and just looking at just adding just some equipment on the playground, why don't we look at partnering with the town of Franklin? This could be another project that the town and the town can work really well together with. And we can come up with actually making a larger playground, because the handicap issue is not the only issue. There's a space issue as well. I know that because I take my summer camp to a lot of these parks. And, I know just when my camp shows up, the other parents that are on the playground are usually like, whoa, because the playgrounds are barely big enough, large enough for that. When you go to Silver, you go to Waynesville, the playgrounds are a lot larger. So I'm looking at, maybe this is something that we can partner up with the town and come up with a much larger facility, a much larger playground that's all inclusive for handicapped and non-handicapped children on the same playground.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And Danny is the first appointee as liaison to the town of Franklin.
So maybe we can set up maybe a meeting,
Yes, sir.
just to talk. And then when the time comes, when you gotta make this just more of a public, meeting situation, we can do that. But just to start with, just setting up a meeting so we can get to talk with the town.
Be happy to.
To do that. But I think that'd be an amazing thing for us to get to partner with them to get to do.
Yes, sir.
Much needed.
Yeah.
Much needed.
Short and sweet.
Any other discussion? All right, now consent agenda. Gentlemen, that's all inclusive there. Anything through there you want to pull out, look at, discuss?
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Reflect that it's unanimous. Appointments, any appointments, Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Good. Closed session.
If we could, Mr. Chairman, have a brief closed session. We need to discuss something under attorney-client privilege regarding potential disposition of county property.
Any action tonight, you think?
No.
The reason I'm saying that is we're going to recess after this closed session. What is it?
There could potentially be action, yes, sir.
So we're going in closed session, if y'all want to hang around, when we come back out. And then we're going to recess this meeting, so we'll entertain a motion to,
How long is it gonna? Time frame?
5 minutes.
Make a motion, we go into closed session, Chairman.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank both of you for staying. Derek, you want to read off the results of closed session?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a bid submitted by Anakista Properties LLC of Sylva, North Carolina. They have submitted a bid on a county-owned piece of property located in the Wildflower Development, Lot 307 on Wildflower Loop Road. This is PIN number 750-768-4263 in records held by the Macon County Tax Office. At this time, if it is the desire to accept this bid, we'll need a motion that reflects the county's desire to accept the bid as aforementioned, subject to the satisfaction of the upset bid process as contemplated in North Carolina general statutes.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we enter into contract with Anakista Properties LLC on lot number 307, pin number 750-768-4263, contingent upon a 10-day upset bid period.
I second the motion.
Further discussion?
I would just like to say, Mr. Chairman, that once this is advertised, anyone is welcome to bid on this piece of property during that upset bid process.
Welcome and encouraged.
Welcome and encouraged. Thank you, sir.
All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Reflected as unanimous. Motion to recess
Recess to
until still the same date,
November 9th.
February.
I'll make that motion. February 9th at 1:00 p.m. in the Board of Commissioners boardroom.
You got it?
That day.
You got the motion and the second, Mike?
Second.
Make the check too and all that, yeah.
Signify by raising your right hand.
Have the ad saved.
Unanimous.
The last one we did.
Thank y'all for being here. Mike,
There's your little
Glory there. We're adjourned.